Greetings, traveler. If you're scared people will refund your game after the first few minutes of playing it, you can relax. Today, what I'm going to share with you is my 3 rules for making sure that never happens. If you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 15 years now, and that fear is basically something any studio and any developer is terrified of. It doesn't just mean reduced profits, but it means that the product was just not good enough to satisfy the player. So, to put this into frame, let me tell you the story that just happened to me the other day. I was playing Pillars of Eternity 1, and I was playing the turn-based version because that was just released. So, within the first few minutes, as I'm going through the tutorial slowly and going through the turns, something happened and I cannot hit the end turn button to continue the combat. I tried for a minute or so to work around it, but I just couldn't. So what I did, I just exited the game and I haven't played since. Now here you're thinking that I'm probably going to refund the game and it's a terrible game and so on, but that is actually the opposite of the truth. Not only I love that game so much that I've already finished it once, and I've played the next game, Pillars of Eternity 2, a lot, also in turn-based mode, but I actually like the theme, the game, and the people who made these games so much that I was a backer for both of these games. So I will probably give it another try, but not right now. I will try to wait for the team to maybe fix this particular bug and then give it another try. But what does this mean about you? It means that if I was a new player to this kind of game and I just purchased it and I was looking for a good time, that leads me to the first rule that I look for when I think about the beginning of the game and whether players would want to refund or not. So the rule 1 says that if something so catastrophic happens that it completely blocks the player's progress and it stops the game, that's a very big reason for people, first, to stop playing, and second, make them think that, maybe this game, it's nice, but it's not ready yet. So I should come back to it later on. And of course, every time a player thinks that, there's like a 95% chance that they will completely forget about this game for the rest of their lives. So I'm going to give you here the first bonus I want for today. So how to prevent that? Yes, you can have many clever analytics in the game and a lot of automated testing, but my favorite method of finding these things is playtesting as early as possible before release with as many real people as possible, one-to-one. So that means sitting next to them, looking at their experience, seeing the game installed in their computers and what happens. I know this is very high effort, and in the era we live in, we would like to have it all automated. But I love this process for many reasons. I think it's very personal, and it's as close as you could get to a divine camera that shows you what people really experience when they're alone with a game. So that's what I think for that part. For the second part, I think it's really important to have the player see an experience in the game that matches their idea about the game before they played it. What do I mean by that? So when we see a game as a trailer, or we see screenshots of a game and or gameplays, and we get interested in a game and we want to play it, we already form an image in our mind of what to expect. Now, some games are very transparent with what the actual experience is going to be, and some games only like to show us some vague key art or some cinematic trailers and so on. Now, cinematic trailers and cool art is great and all, but if the player doesn't find what they were looking for when they actually played the game, then that is the prime suspect for the case where they think, you know what, this game is cool and all, and that's not for me. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're working on a game that's all about pirates and doing pirate naval battles and doing piratey sword duels and shooting things with your pistols and all that good piratey stuff. If that's the expectation that you form based on the trailers of the game and what you see about the game before you purchase it, then that is your expectation. So if that game were to start and it maintains the piratey theme, but instead you're doing min-maxing of the economics of the base based on trade routes and taxes and coinage and so on, then there's a very high risk of the player, despite liking the piratey theme, thinking, oh, I thought I was going to have a swashbuckling adventure, but instead I'm being a pirate accountant, which is cool, but not for me. So then they might stop playing the game and they might consider refunding it because they think, this is not what I purchased. This is not what I was hoping for when I got this game. Bonus number 2, how to prevent this. The solution, I think, is quite simple here. Being transparent about the game with what the player sees before they purchase it. I know that it's very lucrative to give players a beautiful dream, a beautiful promise in the shape of cinematics and visual art and so on, but at some point all that has to hit the ground. At some point the players will have to see what the game is really going to be. So here us game developers are scared about showing the minute-to-minute action of the game, and if that's not cinematic Hollywood explosions every single second, we think that players are going to be bored and they will not want to purchase the game. But actually, I think, in my experience at least, we need both, right? Not just as developers, but as players too. We want some cool, dreamy cinematic or key art to spark our imagination and make us think how we would have fun in this game, what cool things there would be possible in this game, and then see what it's actually going to be like, so we put all that fantasy into a concrete frame. So once you have these two and people clearly know about them, they have both the fantasy and the real side of the game to start psyching themselves up for what sort of cool experiences they could have once they actually play the game. And that brings me to the third rule. The third rule is all about smooth gameplay, essentially. What do I mean by that? So, from my experience making games and making people test them for the first minutes, the most insidious, the most well-hidden obstacle to the player is extreme difficulty in the beginning. And here you're probably thinking, that's not an issue. I would never make my games extremely difficult, especially in the first minutes. I'm going to make it so that, anybody can start the game. But something that happened to me and to the teams I worked with consistently is we get tunnel vision. We made the game and we know the game better than anybody else in the world. So anything that happens, any little bug, any little control weirdness, any little particular way that things have to be done in the game to proceed, like don't touch this wall or don't pick up this item or don't go that direction in the beginning and so on, because we've tested the game thousands of times, we've internalized them. They have become muscle memory and we don't even think about them. So the smaller the team is, the more susceptible it is to this trap, essentially. So the third bonus for this situation is how to prevent it. And again, I find that sitting down with real people and letting them play the game their own way is absolutely the most valuable way we have to uncover these. So I talked about my experience playing Pillars just now, but I witnessed the same thing happen with another friend of mine who I wanted to introduce to Total War Warhammer, for example. I said, that's a great game, let's play together. He said, oh yeah, I like the tabletop game, let's play it. So I'm sitting with him as he's playing his first Lizardman campaign, and right in the first moments, as he was playing the tutorial, something happened. The tutorial asked him to do, like, click something or go somewhere, but my friend scrolled out a lot and he went to the world map view. And somehow that completely blocked the game. The game didn't crash, but he couldn't do anything more. He couldn't unzoom, he couldn't proceed the game, he couldn't click escape because the game was still in tutorial, so he was completely blocked. If I wasn't physically there, not only I would have not witnessed this issue, but of course my friend would have thought, you know what, this game is weird, let's uninstall it. And of course I know how much fun I had with that game, so that would have been a shame. So anyway, that's it for today. That's my perspective and my experience in this topic. Please let me know if you have favored ways of checking whether players can get through the first 5 to 20 minutes of gameplay, and I'll be very looking forward to reading them down below. As always, thank you so much for watching and have fun.